so much tragedy that's been so personal for so many of our families. I know so many of our members, and as I mentioned, the cantor grew up at Gindling Hilltop Heskramer summer camps, and or at JCA Shalom Camp, which both were destroyed, or maybe Camp Newman that was destroyed last summer. And it's heavy. It's a heavy week. And these weren't just summer camp destruction that we witnessed on TV and in the news. This was people's homes and their livelihood and their communities, and in some cases their towns and cities that were burnt to the ground. And it brings the Torah, the Bible, in some ways, there's almost a magnetism or a synergy. We think about the 10 plagues, or we think about stories in Torah where, as we read a couple of weeks ago, Sodom and Gomorrah were completely destroyed. And we wonder very much, where is God in the fires? And is God in the fires? Is God in the destruction? And I'm sure our theologies are all different, but I happen to not believe that God causes destruction and mayhem and chaos, that these are things that human beings create. And when nature reacts as it has, it's the world's way of saying that humanity is not as powerful as it thinks it is, that nature is more powerful than we are, and that we cannot stop certain things from happening. But they aren't put there or created in order to be some sort of cosmic punishment or disapproval or gesture of inhumanity, but rather these are the ways of the world and the ways of nature. And so I hope that this Devar Torah tonight, which focuses on, again, that theme of darkness and Jacob's response to the darkness and to what happens when he wakes up, I hope it gives us some sense of comfort as we try to make sense of an already incredibly heavy, dark time and dark week for so many of our loved ones and so many of the people that we see, where we look and just cannot find the words to describe what it is that we are feeling. And so the correlation, and maybe this is the cosmic message in all of this, is, I think, somewhat found in this week's Parsha, Vayetze. And Benjamin, of course, will be reading his own Devar Torah, his own words of teaching for this Parsha. But you'll remember, for those of you who paid attention in Sunday school, this contains the story of the ladder. Jacob goes, leaves his home. He is somewhat banished from his home because his brother Esau is going to kill him after he steals the blessing from Isaac last week. And the Torah says the following, short verses, but words that we also can find when we walk inside the synagogue, telling us not to gossip, that this is a holy place and that we should be focused. So the Torah says that Jacob, he's alone, it's dark, it's nighttime. Jacob came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream. A stairway was set, and Adonai was standing beside him. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh va'anochi lo yadati. Surely God is standing, is present in this place, and I did not know it. The rabbis want to know why Jacob says the word I 2 times in the same sentence, as if to say he is emphasizing his presence in that place, pondering why it was that the sentence is constructed in a way where he says God was in this place, and I did not know it. Abraham Joshua Heschel, who you have all heard of, and if you have not, he is probably one of the top 5 great rabbi thinkers of the 20th century, if not of all time, says that there are 2 ways that we can wake up in the morning. Two different sort of attitudes that we can take when we wake up in the morning. One is to wake up and think to ourselves, wow, how amazing, how awesome is life, is this world, is my life. The other way is to sort of say to ourselves, oi. Now, I'm sure if I were to do a survey that some of you may know someone, may live with someone who is what we call morning person. The kind of person who gets up and before they even drink coffee, they don't even need coffee, says, wow, how awesome, let's go. Typically that person is living with, married to in some cases, someone who wakes up in the morning and says, oi. I am not a morning person. As I get a little tiny bit older, it seems to be getting worse. I'm a night owl. Now, some of you may be night owls and not morning people, and some of you may be the kind of people who, when your head hits the pillow, bye-bye, and wake up ready to go. As it turns out, Jacob goes to sleep in darkness. He's in the wilderness. He's running away from home up to the family home, the family sort of where the family comes from in Haran. He's in the dark. He's having this bizarre dream with angels going up and down ladders, and he wakes up and he's a wow person. He's not an oi person. So that part I can't relate to. But this idea that he says I 2 times furthers this commentary that he is a wow person, that he wakes up with a wow. It doesn't hurt, P.S., to have God standing right next to you. The rabbis want to know what the 2 eyes represent. One of the wonderful commentaries is that these 2 eyes represent a very significant shift between the I, that is the Jacob, who was the mama's boy, who tricked his father, who ran away from home, who was scared of his brother Esau, and the I, that is the Jacob, who is the Beit Yaakov, the one who is the progenitor of the house of Jacob and the house of Israel, the one who sees the future and says, wow. Who in one short span from the time he goes to sleep till the time he wakes up is able to transition himself into a forward-thinking and courageous man who's about to meet Rachel and Leah and then marry one and not the other one and so on and so forth. So the first eye represents his past, the rabbis teach, and the second eye represents his future. And as Jacob reflects on this encounter with God standing right next to him, he's acknowledging that he is a changed man, changed forever, from a frightened kid to a man prepared to take responsibility for his life. But there's also one other commentary I wanted to share before we bring this together, which comes from Zohar, from Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. And I think this one may give us a little bit of comfort. For the rabbis of the Zohar of Kabbalah, the act of falling asleep at night, for all of us, it's one of the reasons we're supposed to say the Shema before we go to sleep, right? Because part of us is, in quotes, I put this dead, not alive while we're asleep. But for the Kabbalists, for them, the act of falling asleep at night does have a life-altering, a life-changing impact on our neshamas, on our spirits, depending how we view it. The Kabbalists teach that every human being has an outward mask. That is to say, the way that we appear to others, how others perceive us. And it's a mask. They call it a mask. From through the median of it's like an outer garment that we wear. Not clothing, but a spiritual outer garment. It's the way that is symbolic, that we want people to see us. It's not our true selves that we necessarily use in encountering people each and every day, nor is it necessarily the way that we see ourselves. And this outer garment, according to the Kabbalists, every single night is removed. We shed it. which is to say the things that we know and we don't know from our everyday life, or at least from that day before, the times that we acted as if we were wearing a mask or wearing a costume, the times that we weren't our true selves, that we weren't representations of our essence, of our character, of our fundamental kishka-like nefesh soul, that those things are purged every night when we go to sleep. All of the fake parts of ourselves, the insincere part, the times we didn't act with integrity and with respect, then we return while we're sleeping. The Kabbalah say, this garment's removed, we can go back to the state of nature. There's a prayer we say every single morning. Elohai neshama shenatatahi tahorahi. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. And we're reminded, according to the Kabbalists, of that pure soul, state of nature, whatever you want to call it, each and every morning when we wake up, whether we say wow or oi. It's like we get a cosmic spiritual reboot every single day. This is one of the reasons the rabbis teach that we wake up not knowing where we are. I'm sure you've had this experience, especially for those of you who travel, where you wake up, maybe you're somewhere else, and you don't know where you are for a split second. As you get older, for a little bit longer. You get confused sometimes. Who am I? Where am I? Am I at home? What day of the week is it? Now, some say that's a function of stress and of anxiety, but for the rabbis, it wasn't. It was a function of being human. That in those moments, we were in that rebooting phase. That garment was being removed, and our confusion is a function of our souls transitioning from impure, that is the things that we did during the day that were sort of costume-like and mask-like, to our pure essence, our souls that we were born with. And that's what that moment of confusion is. And so the rabbis teach that each and every morning is new for us. What would it be like to say every day when we wake up, this morning, I'm not the same person I was when I was last night? How would that kind of statement and thought change our behaviors each and every day if we really thought, that God was with me in that space, in that dark moment that turned into light. So on this Shabbat, I know Kabbalah is a little bit confusing and esoteric and hard to explain, but I hope that you got just a bissel of it, just a little tiny bit of it. That each one of us is a potential waiting to happen, and we get a new chance at that potential, or at our soul urge to do the right thing and to act with purity of thought and of spirit each and every day. And how does that connect to what's happening in the world? It helps us to not get stuck in the darkness, to live in the darkness and hold on to the feelings that we are having as we experience darkness, but then to know that we get another chance at the light tomorrow. That our souls transition and the spirit of the universe transitions, whether we say wow or oi, can be empowering to people like me who don't necessarily enjoy watching the people who do the wow. It can inspire us to aspire to a new tomorrow. And while that may sound a little trite, the Kabbalists and Jacob are teaching us that God is in every place, whether we know it or not, whether we say wow or oi, whether we think yesterday was a terrible day, and when we go to sleep say, I can't wait for that day to be over. We all get a new soul, a new chance, a new life, a new garment every day. May we all find empowerment and strength in being able to understand what Jacob understands, that yesterday is past. The future hasn't yet happened. But the present is, as they say, a gift. God is in this place, whether we know it or not. And so let's make tomorrow a new day and a new opportunity to lift the darkness from the world around us, starting with us. Shabbat Shalom.